Hey, just as it says, no wonder the EPA told so many lies. I'm finally going through some of these documents again that I have had for a while, and I'm reading this here, and so it doesn't give a date. Okay. I don't have anybody yet, so I'll wait. But that's what I'm reading. The U.S. EPA final decision in response to comments for soil and groundwater cleanup at the south end of the former General Motors Corporation, North American Operations, otherwise known as Buick City. 902 East Leith Street, Flint, Michigan. And so I'm reading this all through. Hey guys. You guys remember a while back when I did this video? It's so hard to tell. Man, it's so hard to tell. This is like the biggest game of like who done it. Like the governor's in the kitchen with the wrench. Seriously. So basically from what I'm reading in these here, I want to read to you guys some things that are pressing to me. This is the EPA results, that their final decision for the north end of Flint, Michigan, that I printed off like a year ago. And this gives a little bit of history as well, okay? So I'll show you. Just like for those who actually care, for those who actually want to know. I know that there's not a whole lot of people out there that do. This is for you guys. So, okay, what this is I am elaborating. I'm working through these pages here. The U.S. EPA final decision. Okay, and so this gives some history. Okay, so we'll just we'll kind of start. I'll just skim it a little bit, starting right here, working my way through. The entire facility, including both the south end and the north end, covers 452 acres located at this address. Now they're talking about this basically like environmental waste zone. And so it's 452 acres, you guys. That's huge. Okay. In the late 1800s, the facility was built to produce the horseless carriage for the Imperial Wheel Company. In 1889, Billy Durant and J. Dallas Dort purchased the Imperial Wheel Company, making it a subsidiary of the Durant-Dort Carriage Company. In September 1903, Flint Wagon Works purchased the Buick Motor Company from David Buick and relocated the Buick Motor Company to the property now known as Buick City in Flint, Michigan. During the World War I, the Buick Motor Company produced the Liberty aircraft engine. In 1942, in response to World War II, the production of automobiles stopped and the production of military equipment began. Facility operations have included machining of ferrous and non-ferrous metals, V6 engine manufacturing, torque converter manufacturing, industrial wastewater. Okay, I can put this over here. Hold on. Seriously, I want to read some of this to you guys because I'm going to work to get to my points. Everybody's always like, just get to the point. Then don't listen then if you're not patient enough to hear it. So they're talking about the hydrological setting, basically the groundwater. Okay, and so yeah. This is one thing, is that, you know, they're making mention to the wells and the well, let me just read it, okay? Should I show you guys what I'm reading here? I'll let you guys read with me. Now this is where all of Genesee County should really be concerned, because all of the people that live even on the outskirts of Genesee County all think that, well, I don't need to worry about what they're doing to the people in Flint because it doesn't affect me. You're wrong. You're very wrong, because all of these industrial sites that they have all over the place are sitting on top of a lot of these like glacial drift zones and bedrock, groundwater, all of that are feeding into your wells. And it's really interesting to see how the EPA, they use these words that are so not conclusive, but very broad. And the more I read, the more I understood how intentional they were doing this. So I'm just going to try and, Okay, so actually this is kind of important. Groundwater flow within the unconsolidated glacial deposits in the vicinity of the facility is toward the Flint River and its tributaries to the east and southeast. Regionally, 2 distinct water-bearing zones are identified: the glacial drift, which is about 30 feet deep, and the bedrock groundwater zones underlying the glacial drift. The glacial drift zone consists of discontinuous sand layers and is not used as a groundwater source due to its limited capacity. So it's not a very big underlying like groundwater area. Sorry, I'm not a scientist. Okay, so Here, so the bedrock groundwater zone consists of 3 different layers: Saginaw Formation, Michigan Formation, and Marshall Formation. The Saginaw Formation is a primary source of groundwater in the Flint area. In the past, several industries in the area have used production wells screened in this formation. Basically, what they're saying is like all of their pollutants and toxic waste was inside of these, okay? These wells were eventually taken out of service due to the poor groundwater quality. Great. The Michigan Formation is not considered an important source of groundwater. It's not considered an important source of groundwater. Michigan Formation, the Saginaw Formation, the past. I have to reread what I just said. Michigan Formation. Okay. All right. So, actually, I don't know. The Marshall Formation provides a small percentage of the groundwater used in the Genesee County. You guys hear that? The Marshall Formation provides a small percentage of the groundwater used in Genesee County. Surface water drainage patterns at the facility are generally east and southeast towards the Flint River, which is the nearest surface water body. The facility as a whole, the north end and south end, operate under National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System. Okay, permits for 6 outfalls into the Flint River, and the entire facility, both the north end and the south end, is drained by 15 storm sewers. Okay, so this is where this gets, there's so much, and I just want you guys to get the most important parts of it. So I even tried to organize it on here, which is really hard to do. Now it's talking about the risk assessments, okay? So basically, like, I have a lot of these aerial photographs, and I was trying to compare, because what they do is and it even tells you, okay, so what they do is they break all of these zones that they're testing and calculating into AOIs, which is an area of interest, okay? So that's different than like a parcel. And I had to like refer to like some of my aerial photographs here to see like, okay, well, are any of these AOIs listed on here? But they're not. These are parcels. So these ones are like by plot, like this is 280, this is 284, this is 287, and then within each plot there are my nails are so jacked up, I don't even care. There are other I don't know, honestly, I don't know what those numbers indicate. I truly don't. But basically, so they're testing all of these areas on the south end of Flint and on the north end of Flint, and they only listed these areas that are really considered to be dangerous. And so what those measures are, I will show you guys, because somebody will likely understand this a lot better than I do. So I'm hoping to relay this to those of you. I mean, seriously, I feel like everybody involved in Flint has made themselves a scientist to some degree. Very little degree. Okay, so I'm going to refer to these back here after this, okay? All right, so let me just kind of start from the beginning here. All right, so risks identified. This is just as important. Maybe you guys can take a screenshot while I've got this up. Human health risk assessment. During the RFI and after hazardous substance levels were identified in soils and groundwater, a human health risk assessment was performed to determine the health problems that it could result if the contamination at the facility was not cleaned up. Oh, and by the way, I forget, they have also made it pretty clear that there are certain ways that they have chosen to clean this up, and also all of these land grabs, like the Racer Superfund site in Flint, and the school that I told you guys about, that Eric Mays' father, Board and City Councilman of Flint, Michigan, Eric Mays' father, Reverend Lewis Mays, they bought that school. I'm going to get there. Let me stay focused. They are so washing their hands of everything. They don't care. They don't care. And any investor, they all need to be aware of what they're doing here, because these land grabs are so dirt cheap. They're so dirt cheap, but it's because all of these areas, all of these pieces of land in various places are super, super toxic, and I'll show you with some in part. Okay, so I'm going to try and do this. The human health risks were evaluated based on routine exposures to industrial workers. Alrighty. The EPA has determined that an acceptable cancer risk range is these measurements, and let me show you guys here. Look at how astonishingly different these are, okay? These are the measurements by which they deem acceptable, and these are the measurements that they're finding, okay, all throughout these different various areas. And I don't know what these areas of interest are because I don't have that map. Maybe I do, who knows. Look at that. Look at how crazy that is. And look at what's all in them. You know, all of these different, in the groundwater. This is what's in the groundwater. Okay, so all of those of you who live in the greater Genesee County area that want to think that what happens in Flint doesn't affect you, you're entirely wrong, because I know that there are plenty of people that are using this, the groundwater. They have wells. I've gotten plenty of messages from people asking me, you know, I used groundwater. Oh, it scared me. Do you think that I'm safe? I'm doing a video right now on the stuff that you can come in.
Oh, no, I'm going to bed.
Oh, you startled me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh my gosh. I'm like thinking, do I need to have my machete out here? Okay. Huh? Yeah. My heart's like seriously pounding out of my chest. Like, okay. Oh, I love you too. Okay. Oh my god. Okay, thank you. I thought somebody was coming to murder me. I did. I thought somebody was coming to murder me right now. Oh, let me just not have a heart attack. Okay, so these areas, I'm eating almonds too. I do get nervous, you guys, pulling this stuff out, because this is stuff that people don't want people to see and hear about. So basically, and then so these are just some of these levels, you guys, okay? And so let me just line these all up here for you guys. So my friends in Flint, if you guys know of people that live in the Genesee County area, and they have well water, you know, what I just read to you guys before about the groundwater is that this groundwater is very contaminated as well. And they don't consider some of these groundwater areas to be as important, but people are drinking this stuff, and they admit too to high levels of lead in the soil. And response. Like some of the questions that they have here, you guys. Okay, so I can take pictures of this too. Instead of reading it all, how's that? Instead of reading it all, I'll take pictures, screenshots of this stuff, and I'll post it in the comments, okay? In case you guys do actually want to see it. So basically, a lot of the stuff that they're talking about, like why not excavate the contaminated soil that is on site rather than leaving it in place and capping it. Now they're talking about the south end of Flint, Michigan. So basically what they did was they capped it. Now this is actually something I do want to read because to me this is like ridiculous and very unprofessionally written, if I might add. Considering the current zoning, I'm going to post this for you guys. So how's this? I'm going to read from that. Okay, considering the current zoning is industrial and the future use of the property is anticipated to be industrial, and the fact that there is currently a concrete cap in place, the building slabs and parking lots, capping the 10,000 yards of contaminated soil is more practical and will protect human health and the environment presently and in the future. If the soil was excavated, the concrete slabs along with the contaminated soil would potentially have to be removed and disposed of as hazardous waste. It is hazardous waste. The soil contamination is mainly from heavy metals which don't generally move in the environment. By leaving the cap in place, the remedy provides an additional barrier to rain that could not move the contamination that could move. By leaving the cap in place, the remedy provides an additional barrier to rainwater that could move the contamination or that might cause the metals to dissolve or leach into the groundwater. I'm not a scientist, but that doesn't make sense to me. It's still in the soil. There's still lots of movement happening in there. And, you know, it's going to flow. It's going to flow somewhere. It's going to go into the Flint River. This was all done before the switch, by the way. This right here, this EPA stuff was all done before the switch. I'm going to take pictures of every single page. I'm going to take pictures of every single page of this EPA thing that I have, the final, their final decision. And I'm going to post it in the comments because to me, it's ridiculous. The wording that they use too. Okay. Okay. The maintenance of the cap will be MLC's responsibility and a fund will be established for the cost of maintenance in the future should the property be sold. And so I want to read something else real quick before I move into the school Shiloh comments. Public comments and EPA responses. What is the relationship between General Motors Corporation and Motors Liquidation Company, MLC? And how is the environment cleanup being funded? Okay. The EPA's response to this, because this was like a public comment, this is a public hearing. General Motors Corporation, I'm going to post this for you guys. General Motors Corporation filed for bankruptcy June 1st, 2009. Our government quickly ran in to help them on that bankruptcy, didn't they? But they totally forgot about all these like toxic waste sites that they left everywhere. And then not only did they forget, they also put all of these places up for sale, these big, huge land grabs, so that they've made it distinctively clear, and I'll read to you in this insurance policy, how it is not their responsibility anymore. They want to see this land gone. They don't care how much money they get for it. They don't care because it's so contaminated that they just want, and they've actually gone against their own being held accountable to having this stuff cleaned up. There's supposed to be certain actions taken. And that's why I feel like right now in Flint, Michigan, there's so many of these people that are scrambling. I've been hearing of trucks driving up these roads and taking loads of bags and buckets and all kinds of stuff and all kinds of crazy stuff last minute. And now they're dredging the Flint River. And you know where all of that, what kind of ash is that again, you guys? Fleur Lisa, Andrea, where are you guys? Help me out here. That ash that they're dredging the river and they're putting it up on top of the soil and they're just covering it with tarp. And this is all stuff that becomes airborne. This is all stuff that people breathe in and get sick off of. They're supposed to do this and contain this and not put it out in the public where people can breathe this all in. This is serious issues to people's health on top of what they've already been having to go through. What a cover-up. What a cover-up this all is. Unbelievable. All right. Okay. So, on July 9th, 2010, some of the assets of General Motors Corporation were sold to a new company called General Motors LLC, Limited Liability Corporation is what LLC stands for. Okay? They have some real good attorneys, all these corrupt people, don't they? Real good attorneys that masterminded how to get through and around anything. You need people to videotape those whenever they hear or see anything. Coal tar, Carrie, coal tar. Yes, it's coal tar. They're dredging right now in the Flint River. They are dredging coal tar. They want to talk about on the south end of Flint, what I just read you guys, they want to talk about capping all of these toxic waste sites in Flint because how they're called like Brownsfields and Superfund sites and toxic waste sites. Basically, what those are all code words for is like death sites, cancer sites, like slow death sites, suffering, pain, all of that sites. Okay, let's just call it what it is. So they capped it so that this stuff is not exposed, so that it's not having to be moved, right? Yeah, it's really old, and this stuff is never gonna go away, and like it's always gonna be there. And so now they're dredging the Flint River, and they're pulling all this coal tar up, and they're sitting it right on top. I've seen it with my own eyes, and my friend even said that's something else we got exposed. And it was on a Sunday, and I was in a hurry to get home, and I was in a hurry to get home. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna cover that the next time I come in here. And I never did, and I really regret that. I really, really regret that a lot. And basically what it is, they've got these mounds, they got these machines right off of Saginaw Street. You can see them. Last time, you know, they're on the bridge there, and they're dredging the river. They're pulling up all this coal tar, this sediment, this deadly sediment. And instead of containing it like they're supposed to, they're literally dumping it right on the ground, and they're covering it with tarp. Huge mounds of coal tar. If you don't know what it is, look it up, Google it, all right? Because they claim to cap these areas off so that it's not a future health risk, but they're dredging the river, and they're pulling all this stuff, and they're putting it out there in the elements, in the air, in the group, on the soil, people walking by there. It's just unbelievable. Okay, and so who chooses the remedy? Motors Liquidation Company. Wait, who chooses the remedy? Motors Liquidation Company or the EPA? This is another question somebody asked. And the EPA's response was, the EPA chooses the remedy that the MLC will implement. That alone right there. That alone right there. On top of this entire document here, that you can find online, unless they took it down. That's why I printed it when I had it. They're pawning. No wonder, you know, I used to go to these Flint City Hall meetings when I could, and I remember the first time I ever sat in one. I made a lot of enemies that day, and the EPA was lying through their teeth, through their stinking teeth, and no wonder they're telling the people all this garbage, and no wonder they're totally, there's so much confusion and blame shifting on so many people. This is not to take any kind of blame or fault off of the city and the state and our federal government. I am talking right now about the EPA specifically because this is what I'm reading. I had this huge tub of documents and I'm trying to work through, you know, and then I got like more over there. So the best way to do it is piece by piece, right? And these videos tend to disappear, so watch it while you can. All right, I'm gonna post this stuff, so I'm not gonna sweat reading it too much anymore right now. But what I want for you guys to do is keep listening. And then when I do post these pictures, I want you guys to read them. Read them. Okay, now this is this crap over there. Give me a second. Let me think here. in what order I'm going to read this from. Okay, so that goes first, and then this second. I get confused. I really do. I get confused. Okay, so you guys remember that church? That church on the north end of Flint, Michigan. You know, so the north end of Flint, Michigan is the side of Flint where my friend has contracted a superbug. It is an antibiotic-resistant superbug. It is generally, not even generally, is known to be a third world bacteria, and upon further research is actually labeled as bioterrorism. And once again, it's also antibiotic resistant. This bacteria was found in the home, and that neighborhood there. They tested the home, they tested the vacuum, they tested the water coming out, they tested the mains, they swabbed inside deep areas where other scientists don't typically go. And the conclusion that was given from that test from Wayne State University, who is refusing to release the results of this antibacteria, or this bacteria. Basically what it was, they were saying, from my understanding that I had at the time, and some of the papers that I have recently read on that were given to me, is that it's coming from like the water, the main water. So it's not something that was in the house. It's something that started in the house. It's something that came through the water, and it became airborne, because this stuff can become airborne. So, you know, they tested even the vacuum cleaner, and I want to say, I believe that they found it in there. So this has to do with the north side of Flint. Okay, they have this big industrial rezoning idea for the north end of Flint, Michigan. And so what do they want to do? They want to get these people out. You know, a lot of these areas in Flint, Michigan are going abandoned. They're going, you know, they're completely, it's these land grabs. It's abandonment without care, like I've said in the past. And so I'm looking here at this, this is old. And what this is, this is, okay, the Zimmerman Center, March 26, 1993, okay? This here is that property that I told you guys about, where that Shiloh Commons, which is actually right here, they discuss it, housing proposed for Flint's north side. This doesn't have a date on it, but I mean, we could go back and figure out when that Shiloh Commons was built, because then we would be able to, I'll read that too. But basically, so the property is the Old Northern High School Annex. All right, the buyer, Shiloh Missionary Baptist Church of Flint. The seller, the school district of the city of Flint, Michigan. The full purchase price is for $10,000. They put $1,000 down, and this is what they owed left. So they bought the property for $10,000. Okay, now documents. Quitclaim deed, asbestos management plan, building plan, partial set. I actually have those. Underground storage tank disclaimer. Underground storage tank disclaimer. Okay, so that was actually it from this paper that I wanted to read. All right. Now, this here, this information, hold on. The school district of the city of Flint. Okay. The premises and buildings located thereon are sold as is without exception. The terms of sale are contained in an agreement dated March 24th, 1993. All right, so they knew a long time ago that they got a major calamity of toxic waste on their hands. They got another love canal on their hands. And what do they do so that they don't have to take care of the problem? Because that costs too much money, right? It costs way too much money. Way too much time and energy to put into a city of criminals and murderers and people that aren't worth fighting for, right? Because that's how they deem it. Garbage. All right, so I'm going to read a little bit here. Shiloh acknowledges that the building, and this here, by the way, is this is from the insurance company. This is insurance company. Okay. Shiloh acknowledges that the building on the premises have been vacant for a substantial period of time. And this was back in 1993. It was already vacant for a long time then. For a substantial period of time, and that the buildings and their contents have deteriorated as a result of vandalism and the elements. Shiloh takes the buildings and site as is without, hold on, let me let you guys read this with me. Without exception, and the district makes no implied or express warranties or representations as their fitness for any purpose. The district shall have no liability for any defects in the building and site, including but not limited to, you guys can go ahead and read this. Okay, contamination in the soil, existence of asbestos and other contaminants in the buildings. Or underneath the buildings, let's just say. All right, including reasonable attorney's fees and costs incurred at the defense of actions brought against the district by any person, firm, or corporation, or federal, state, or local governments, or any agencies thereof to correct any and all environmental problems in, on, under, and about the buildings and site, including the cleanup of such conditions as may exist. The district will provide to Shiloh copies of asbestos inspection reports in its possession upon request. All right, but they didn't, hold on, Shiloh should be the reason that was all right. Wow, that was a lot right there. That was a lot. They really, so if you guys ever want to buy, did you hear that? There's nothing you can do. I mean, if you buy any kind of property out there that's got kind of, you know, I'm curious to know what homeowners paperwork looks like. All of your insurance policies on your homes. I'm curious to know what those look like. I'm really curious to know, Arthur Woodson, if you ever watch this video, I'm curious to know what those look like. If all of this is included in there, because I don't think that this is always such a typical, like, insurance write-up here, disclaimer and all of that. So now I just want to read something else. There's some other things that are really important to me in here. Okay, so let's read this. This is, who is watching, Jan? Who's watching? My phone just made a really weird noise. Kind of freaked me out. We're on the north side. It's between, it's kind of like a lot of the north side. I'll show you where on the north side I'm talking about. You know, as a matter of fact, wait. As a matter of fact, I have it right here. Let me answer your question right now. Like using random things. Kay, making of another love canal? Yeah, I'm gonna be watching you. It's the most bogus statement I've ever seen anybody comment while I was watching this as you guys are saying it. Ridiculous. It's people like you that we fight against. All right. So the area that I'm talking about to the individual that asked is, okay, so this is the school that was purchased, right? And then, so it's Buick Street. This is a schematic map. This is like plans that they had for, the north end of Flint here. All right, so basically this is the project title, the Northern Town Center, drawing title, schematic site plan, project number 9025A. The date was 4/26/1990. All right, drawing number P1. All right, and so this is Buick Street, McClellan Street, Martin Luther King, and Pasadena. So that area there. And so basically, one thing I learned by somebody is, so all of these lines right here, I actually reached out to some people to find out what these mean. And so this is like land water flow. So this is like, from what I was told by somebody who knows how to read these, is that this indicates the water flow, and this is like feet above sea level. And so anybody that knows anything about, you know, so the important thing about this is narrowing down where any toxic waste storage tanks are in those areas, and then being able to use these gradients here that indicate water flow, natural water flow, and what direction it pulls into. But you know, this all kind of flows towards the Flint River, you know what I'm saying? So they knew, you know, using the Flint River, maybe they tested the water, you know, they lied, they lied through their teeth. I'm really I've been fed up, and I'm really fed up with people on this page also trying to tell me that I'm out here spreading lies, and I really am, you know, because it's furthest for the truth. But I guess I really, I don't have to concern myself with those people. It's frustrating, of course, but it's real quick and easy for me to shake it off. So, the plans that they had for the school were, well, you know, what did they do with it? This is a letter that they wrote. The Shiloh Missionary Baptist Church of Flint, which is a community church, has taken Okay, so basically, the facility would be used. They're talking about the school that I showed you guys, the school that they purchased for this amount of money. It was super abandoned at the time, and so when they purchased it, this was one of the papers upon them approving. This is why, is because they said that this is what they're going to do with the school. The facility would be used to instill an atmosphere of self-esteem and self-worth for each and every person in the community. It will be a storehouse enabling the community to assess the system, being available to the senior citizens, black clubs, youth groups, substance abuse groups, Department of Social Services, Health Department, the GCCAA, I don't even know how to say that, you guys, and other charitable organizations. It will also be used as a training and educational facility. Okay. This building, by the way, is still abandoned. But you guys see why I have a hard time like going through this stuff, because it's a lot. I get really confused too. I mean, there's so many papers. I need to get more organized, but I've been really busy. There's something in here that basically mentions, you know, that holding them accountable to what they say. Hold on. Requirement. Oh. Requirement. Compliance must be had with the following requirement. A copy of the resolution of the Board of Education of the School District of the City of Flint authorizing the sale of the premises to the Shiloh Missionary Baptist Church of Flint, Michigan, a Michigan ecclesiastical corporation. How is a church a corporation? That's crazy. That just tells me that all of these things that people are saying in Flint about like the concerned pastors and all of these corrupt pastors in Flint, Michigan, these corporations, because they're run like a business. They're partnering with the city and the state. So it's directing the proper offices to execute the proposed conveyance. The proposed conveyance on behalf of the school district must be furnished for the files of the guarantee title company. So basically what I took from that is that what the contingency of like what they stated they were buying this property for, like it needed to come to fruition, and it never did. It never did. There's not unless I'm wrong, were there ever any like, you know, like AODA groups being held there, anything for the, you know, elderly, anything at all? Instead what they did was they partnered with HUD. the city and the state to build this low-income housing where they knew that there was toxic waste. Okay, and so, you know, there's some people that opposed it. So how is it that they go ahead and build all of this low-income housing right on top of these areas where they know are contaminated, and they haven't done anything to clean it up, but they're going to partner with the city and the state, who is well aware, according to the EPA, this is public document, they're going to go ahead and just build low-income housing right on top of it because it's soiled. I mean, it's contaminated. So this is considered an industrial zone. They need to get all of these houses, these people out of there. So what do? What do? They use the toxic waste and the environmental calamities to their own advantage. They use it to their own advantage, and they do everything that they've done, you know, by switching the water into the Flint River, by knowing the science behind it. You know, this EPA here, this lady who signed it, Margaret something, you know, she wrote this, it sounded really uneducated as well, and just very half, like, ASS. Margaret Guerrero, I don't know, Guerriero. She's the director of Land and Chemicals Division, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, and she signed this final decision May 13th of 2010. Wait, 2010. I have to think about that later. So that's what I'm going to say to you guys. So I understand that Houston right now is going through a lot, and they absolutely need all of the help that they can get. Can we start considering possibly breaking, you know, people up into groups, you know, regions of the state, you know? So if you live close to Flint, or if you live close to Michigan, you know, and getting in there and just helping the people, because people are very sick right now, and they're at a place where, you know, there's so many people that came in to help them and everybody disappeared. They're feeling again like they're forgotten and they're abandoned. And the biggest part of this, you guys, is just reminding them that they're so important, that although they're treated like a big dumping ground and a big dumping pot, is that they are so important, and that they have a God who is sitting on his throne and who is, you know, working. This is so faceted. What I see is that he is doing so many different things, is reminding the people of Flint that they do matter and to use their voice again. He is showing signs of mercy and grace through those flowers. Anybody that saw that last live stream, those flowers that were growing up in that trailer park when I did that one live stream, he's exposing the wickedness. You know, there's so much of the stuff that's been done in the darkness that is now coming to light. So he's exposing the wickedness. And I'm also seeing some of this as like judgment as well, because once again, like I've been saying, is that the city of Flint, Michigan is so full of Satanism. And if you guys continue to think that you can operate your city under this Satanism and anything that is not based on biblical doctrine, you are absolutely misguided if you think that he's going to come in and he's going to save the day, because this is the type of thing that the Bible talks about is going to happen. And you look about what's happening in our entire nation, and these are wake-up calls. These are wake-up calls. You know, God wants to see his nation turn back to him. And sometimes, like when my brother had cancer, the only way that my brother, who he was once like real committed to Christ, right? He even went to Bible college. He didn't even graduate, but he was so on fire for the Lord, and he backslid, and he had all these famous celebrity friends, and he was going out to Vegas all the time. He was partying it up, right? Living the life. Didn't want nothing to do with God. Didn't want nothing to do with the Bible. That's okay. He didn't want anything to do with any of that. And so when he got cancer, he recognized eventually that sometimes it's like really is grace and mercy on us, because God loves us so much that he doesn't want to see any of us perish. And by perish, that means, you know, because this world, we're just passing through it. It's not what matters to us here that matters. It's what happens after. And so, as you all know, you know, I'm always this, like you guys call me, this religious nut. I don't really care. It's what happens after. Where do you spend your eternity? Heaven or hell? That's what matters. And God loves you so much that he knows that. And so these things that look like, where is your God? Why isn't he? You know, he's going to allow these things to happen, especially if it means that this is going to put you in a place of absolute, like, you have nowhere else to look back, like pulling the rug from underneath your feet, forcing you on your back, so the only thing that you can see is be looking up at him, you know. And that's kind of like that. That's kind of like where people start thinking, you know, God is only, he's just a crutch. A lot of people do use him like that, but he's more than that. But for those of you who do use him as a crutch, I'm sure he's just so happy that you're finally talking to him. You know, Revelations is happening, absolutely. Little by little, we've been watching this. Anybody that's been following in Flint, following me, following this, you know, Project Flint, you guys, you are fully aware of the things that I have seen, the things that I have exposed, that God has brought me to. And trust me, I have seen nothing but the book of Revelations. I have looked this in the face. So I'm still going, you know, because I have to, you know, because you look at what love is, you know, it's long-suffering, it's patient, it's gentle, it's kind. And so I have to work on that sometimes with some of you guys that comment on this stuff real stupid. Kind of tick me off every once in a while. I really got to pray, and I'm like, ooh, Lord, please help me, because I'm about to, like, go off on somebody with all these, like, stupid accusations and stuff. See, that's where, like, you know, we're just people, and it's, that's where I have to let him continue to work on me. So, anyways, I deliver this message to you guys in pieces because it's too much. It's too much to do all at once. It's absolutely impossible. So I hope that you guys learn some truth. If you're just joining now, please share the video. You can start from the beginning. I do these videos because it's really important for everybody to not forget about Flint, Michigan. I know so much. They know so much. They live so much. People don't want to believe us. You know, we talk about Flint. I feel like Flint has become a cuss word. Seriously, when I start talking about Flint, I see people's bodies, you know, they change. It's like they don't want to hear. It's weird. It's really strange to me. I feel like saying the word Flint, people are like, ugh, you know. But this is something that they need, because otherwise they're going to be left suffering and fighting for themselves as they have for many, many, many years, and that has proven to not do very much. So just continue to trust God, you know, because I've been in a place right now, I've been feeling pretty like that's where I'm at right now. That's the only way to describe it. Let go and let God, right? Let go and let God. Until he gives me a distinct chore. It's not a chore. A distinct job. Well, some days it is a chore, actually. I'm not going to lie. There have been times that I've driven to Flint, and I knew that I was going to be getting myself into some situations that I really didn't feel like I wanted to involve myself in. And it felt like a chore. But, you know, I kind of always reap the personal rewards, you know, that God gave to me for just being obedient. Whether it just be, you know, amazing lightning shows on the way home, seeing his face in the sky, those things that those ways he uses to speak to me. So, all right, you guys, God bless you and have a fantastic week. I hope everybody had a great Labor Day. I definitely labored today. On this Labor Day, I was working from like morning to evening, getting my life in order. All right, guys, have a good night.